everyone, welcome to my channel. I'm just here to bring you my two latest embellishment kits, my junk journal kits. Basically I had a request for a nature themed journal from Liz, so hi Liz. I have compiled these two. Probably this particular one here is not really what you're looking for at all, but I thought I would do something a little bit different. You know, possibly you would like it, possibly you wouldn't. So I will show you this. Please don't feel in any way obliged to kind of have it. Of course, you know, it was just kind of nature. I just thought I would kind of try this. But I also did you this one, which I'm much more confident that this was kind of the type of thing that you had in mind. So hopefully you will like this. But again, if you don't, for any reason, please do not feel obliged to kind of have it. So I will show you this one first, and then I will come to the next one afterwards. So this one is bound together with string in this kind of paper package that I have made. Again, as with all my kits, I kind of tried to design the packaging so that you can kind of, I've lost my words, you know, kind of cut it apart and take it apart and use it in your journals. You know, or kind of use elements of it at least in your journals. So that's kind of the idea. So the first two items in this particular kit are these tiny items. There's this little one, which is some kind of velvet fabric. And then it's got this kind of little stamped image of a bird on this gorgeous floral fabric. And then it's got a piece of lace. And that's all been distress inked. And then it's just been stitched on the sewing machine, just down kind of on one edge there. So that's that little item. Then here there's another piece of fabric. This is kind of a linen-y type fabric, and it's got some lace on top and this gorgeous big wooden button in this kind of greeny colour. So I thought it was kind of in keeping with the nature greeny kind of theme of the journals, the kit. So that's those two items, and they're just hanging on a bulb pin from the string that was, you know, holding the package shut. And then basically on the front cover of the paper package, you've got this gorgeous image here, which was a free printable from, I think, Pinterest, but it could have been Google Images. I think it was Pinterest. It's just been coffee dyed and then layered up with some vintage book page and then onto an envelope, which I've made a side pocket. I've got a little ticket here and another little postmark, which actually says love on there, and then a little butterfly. So all of these elements have been glued down, but you could obviously cut them off. I mean, you might be able to peel them off, but certainly you would be able to cut them off to use in your projects. So going inside, the first kind of item here is tucked inside this pocket, and it's just a kind of corner tuck spot, and it's just some coffee stained scrapbook paper, and I've just layered up some decoupage napkin image there, little journaling spot, and a frame on some buff coloured card. And then this is a bird from a vintage bird book, and then some lace trim down the bottom, and then the back is plain. I would just obviously glue that down and have it in the corner of a page. So that's that item. And then I'll just quickly show you, you've got these little items here, which were held on with that little peg, and it's just basically a couple of little tickets here on just coffee dyed cardstock. And then you've got a little stamped image of this butterfly, and then this gorgeous one of these ducks. Beautiful, beautiful image. And that's just all on coffee dyed cardstock there, just for using in your journals. They're all crafty individuals stamps. So they just all held together with the peg, went in that pocket. And then here on the flap, I've got a fabric ruffle here, which I've decided that really the best way to kind of attach those is with the staples, because then you can obviously just unstaple them very easily and then use them in your projects. So it's just kind of loose and just stapled on at the edges, so you just unpick the staples obviously, and then you can use that fabric ruffle in your projects. And then here, attached to a bulb pin, I've got a fabric flower. This one is slightly different to the flowers that I made in my tutorial. I may do another tutorial for these particular flowers, but I mean, they're pretty, you know, straightforward. But there's that I thought looked quite pretty. And then you've just got a twine bow that I've just kind of made there. And I've just put that on the bulb pin as well. And then going inside, obviously the nature theme, I've themed this whole kit in kind of tones of green. So obviously matching in with the first item that I showed you, the first paper item, there is a corner tuck spot, exactly the same. So it's the scrapbook paper, coffee dyed, got some decoupage napkin, a little postmark stamp, and then a little frame kind of behind, and again another bird from the vintage book, and then a bit of lace trim, and again I would just glue that down as a corner tuck spot. So that's that one. And then this one, I've got some lace trim down the bottom. I've got this beautiful, it's actually like a perfume label stuck on there with a little journaling spot. And then this gorgeous duck from the vintage bird book, and he's just layered up on some sewing pattern paper. And again, I would just kind of glue that down like that. And then here there is another corner tuck spot, again with some decoupage napkin, little ticket, and the piled up cups with the bird, and then some lace trim across the top, bit of stamping around the edge, and they've all been distress inked as well as the coffee staining, so they really are nice and vintage looking. And then I would just glue that down like that in the corner. And then here you've got, I would personally use this as a pocket or a tuck spot. And it's just got a layered up image here of a stamped leaf on a kind of postcard image, and that's been layered up with a ticket here and a bird from the vintage bird book, and then a beautiful flower that I've cut off of some trim, and then here some lace trim across the top. And I would just glue that either on 3 sides as a top loading pocket, or kind of on a couple of sides as a more like a tuck spot. So either or really. And then here I've got, I'm going to try and do another video of these. These are some digital printables that I'm going to be doing. So I've just taken one of them and then I've just literally stitched it onto some file folder to give it kind of rigidity, and I've inked it up around the edges. So I thought that went nicely with the kit. And then here I've got, I would use this as a kind of belly band. Just gluing down there and there on a page and use it obviously in there. It's got a frame, it's got a decoupage napkin image of a bird, and then some more decoupage napkin here, and a bit of lace trim, and then a flower from some trim there, and then some stamped images in the corner. And that's all been roughed up around the edges as well and distress inked. And then I'm going to show you that one last because I quite like that one. It's probably my favourite item. I've got this item here which has got the calendar here. It's got a bird. It's got here, this was some vintage image of some flowers which I have copied from a book. I can't remember now what the vintage book was that it was taken. It might have been from those children's encyclopedias actually. And then I've distress inked it all up and stuck it down onto the page, and I have got a little pair of binoculars up there, one of those flowers, some lace trim, and again a vintage bird on there. And again it's all been inked up, looks nice and vintage. And just again I would use that as a kind of pocket on the page. And then the final item for this kit is this one, which I was excited about. So this one I have used string here to tie it. And basically all it actually is a kind of folding flap. So you've got the scrapbook paper itself. I've glued the string onto there. Obviously, if you didn't like it, if it's Liz who buys the kit or anybody else, you could just cut the string off or probably even peel it off. You know, so you don't have to have the string. I just quite liked it. And that's just holding basically this flap down, which has got a postcard and some lace trim going across. The postcard's got a bird on here. Got a journaling spot here, just kind of for interest down the side. And then it opens up. You've got a stamped image of a vintage postcard and then one of those little vintage birds from the book. So again, I would glue that down, and I would probably glue this down kind of like 3 sides and have it as a top loading pocket, as well as a kind of fold back kind of flippy item. So yeah, that's kind of how I would probably use that one. So that's that kit. I'm going to list these both probably in my shop, saying you know, reserved for Liz. Obviously, Liz, I know that you only wanted one, and you know, if you don't want either of them, that's fine. So obviously I will list them reserved for Liz, but hopefully kind of she'll look at them in the next couple of days, and if she doesn't want them or want one of them, then I will obviously alter the listing and take the reserved for Liz off. Now the second kit, it's very different, so I'm not sure really kind of whether it will be, you know, even anyone's cup of tea, but I was really pleased with how it turned out. So the paper package is created from the Children's Encyclopedia pages. It's sort of quite delicate and fragile, so I will be careful. I left the back of it undecorated, but basically I just stitched a few pages together for the front and for the back, and then I've stitched them together to form a kind of little sack here. And then down the side of here I have stitched some fabric, some sewing pattern ruffle. So again, obviously the idea is that this can be taken apart, so you could cut that down and obviously pop that onto your journals. And it's got a word here, bless, that's just been stapled on, so you could unstaple that to use in your journals. This home is where the heart is, that's just from some fabric. You could peel that off, it's just been glued on. And then here I've just got these couple of buttons. These are vintage buttons, and they've been stitched onto this linen and they're just glued on. So again, they could just be kind of picked off to use in your journals. And then up here I have got a couple of fabric ruffles attached with a bulb pin. Oh no, sorry, not attached with a bulb pin, stapled on with a twine bow. So these are little kind of size fabric ruffles. So obviously unstaple them and they can be used in your journals along with the twine bow. And then on this side I made this trim, which I was really chuffed with how this turned out. I basically cut off flowers from some fabric trim that I had purchased, and obviously they're different flowers, these two are the same. And then I've just stitched the flowers onto this floral fabric. So it's kind of, I don't know, a kind of hybrid trim, I suppose. So I really loved how that turned out, and obviously, you know, you could just use that glued down on the side of a page or stitch it onto a page. So that's that item, that's been attached with a bulb pin. And then you've got here some more of the linen fabric with some more of this floral fabric. So it's all kind of matching, with some more vintage buttons. They've just been stitched on, and they could just be glued onto kind of the bottom of pages or onto tags. Sorry about that. And then here I've just got some velvet fabric, and that's been layered up with some hessian and some lace and some of this faux leather, which I painted in green and stamped the word love. And I've just stitched that on the sewing machine, and again that could just be glued onto a page. Now the paper items, this is where I'm saying that they might not be everyone's cup of tea. They're taken using images from the Children's Encyclopedia, and this kit, the theme of it are the big cats. So basically there was a section in the book featuring big cats of the jungle. So I wanted to obviously use the pages from the book, you know, I mean I've got obviously lots of pages to use, but and I thought they would make a really nice kit, and actually, I mean, they're beautiful animals, so I thought I would just do something a bit different. So the first item here in this kit, it's a tiny envelope. I have stuck over some text from the book page, and then I folded up the flap from the bottom of the envelope to kind of form a pocket, which now I haven't actually got anything to put in there to demonstrate. So I'm just going to borrow from kit number 1, just going to borrow one of those tiny tickets to kind of show you. So I'm just going to borrow this item. So this does not come with this kit, but I'm just showing you that that's a little pocket there. So please ignore that item, it doesn't come with this kit. So this is a little pocket, and it's got one of the cats. I mean, this actually to me looks like a household cat, but this is in the section of kind of big cats. So, you know, I didn't obviously read the text, but that's him. And then I've got a piece of that fabric down stuck on the folding flap there. So I would just glue this onto a page. In fact, I have actually used these similar pockets in some of my journals. So I would just glue that onto the page. You could glue it on 3 sides and have another pocket at the top or in the side, or, you know, however really. So that's item number 1. Then the second item, I've just got here some coffee stained paper, which I have folded into a kind of fold out flip. And then, so you've got lots of journaling space here. I've rounded the edges, and I just fussy cut this gorgeous, glorious tiger here and popped on a distressed flower there. So that's that item. Now this item here, it's just some layered up book page, and I have distress inked around the edge, similarly to how I've done the process video that I worked on earlier on for the other kit that I'm working on with the Peter and Jane books. And I've distress inked around the edge, and then I've stitched on some lace either side, and obviously cut out this cat's head and inked up around the edge, and I've just glued him on in the middle. So I've just kind of glued that down as a kind of tuck spot on a page. Now this item here, this was some of the ephemera that I bought, you know, just the other day, and or recently, I guess it wasn't the other day now, a few weeks ago now. And basically I have copied it. You're not missing out not having the originals. I've said this before, it's all a little bit smelly, so you know, actually you're better off kind of having copies. So this was a copy of one of the items of ephemera, and it was just an envelope, and then I have coffee stained it, and I've stitched it onto some file folder for rigidity, and then I've layered up a lion here on some book page and popped him on. Put some lace down here, which I stitched with the zigzag stitch, and then in the corner I've just put a tab with this coordinating fabric, just stapled that on, and a little flower. So that kind of coordinates nicely with this here. So I mean, actually the you know, the items all even match the kind of packaging, which sometimes I obviously don't have matching packaging to the kit. So that's that item. The next item here, this has got, again, same concept. So some layered up book pages, and then I've got here some sewing pattern down the side, ruffled up. I've got some of that gorgeous fabric down the bottom, just stitched on, distress inked around the edges, and then I've got a ticket here and a flower. This gorgeous image of this cat here, and that's layered up on some, again, sewing pattern paper, just for extra detail, and I would just glue that onto a page like that. Now the next item is a large tag. So this tag, it's just from the file folder, which I have layered up some text page and a postcard image, and then some fabric which has all been glued on there and stitched on as well. And then I have stitched around the tag itself, and it's actually a kind of opening tag. It's got some lace trim here, and inside there is a piece of the vintage ephemera that I bought the other day. And again, that's just been copied and coffee dyed. So that just goes back in. And this was actually, no, just the water rates. And I think from what I can see, I thought it did have a date on it, but I can't actually see a date now. But anyway, no, I can't see a date. Must have had a date on the back. But anyway, So that just pops back into there. So I quite liked the way that turned out, and I thought you could just paperclip that onto a page in a journal. And then this one here I would use as a kind of pocket on a page. So again, it's the book pages layered up and inked around the edges. You've got some fabric down here, you've got one of those flowers, and it's just been layered up with some sewing pattern stapled on, and then you've got some sewing pattern ruffle at the top, bit of lace trim, and then you've got this beautiful lion and then a butterfly that's all been distress inked just stuck on there. So I mean, actually, although you know you wouldn't necessarily first kind of think of putting the big cats into a vintage journal, actually I think they worked really well and look really good. This one here, same concept, so the layered up book pages, and I've just stitched around, so they're glued together, and then I've just stitched them around on the sewing machine. And then this, I've got some lace trim going down the side that I've stitched on the sewing machine. I've popped the word love here, and then a twine bow that I've just stapled on, and then I've done some zigzag stitching down here and down the side, and then a gorgeous goldy coloured flower, which again, that's kind of the same as the ones on the trim. And then you've got a couple of tickets here on the side. So that's that. And then the final item here is a corner tuck spot, so a top corner tuck spot, and then you've got some fabric trim going across the top, which I've stitched on the sewing machine. So this is just from file folder. It's got layered up book page, the kind of top bit of a postcard stamp, and then a lovely cat here layered up on some sewing pattern paper, and then a postmark here. And then just held on with the bulb pin, you've got another one of those beautiful flowers just on there. And it's all been, again, distress inked up. So, although not necessarily kind of, you know, what would spring to mind when you call or when you mention a vintage junk journal kit, I actually think it does look really vintage and works really well. And I was really thrilled with how this one turned out. Really had fun making it too. So I will be listing them both in my Etsy shop. I will be listing them both reserved for Liz. Not sure she's going to like them or want them or anything else. So if you just keep your eyes kind of peeled, I will obviously update the listing if and when she kind of decides, you know, whether she wants them. You know, so they'll be on there hopefully to kind of coincide with this video being uploaded. So hope you liked them, and you know, hope you found them inspirational, if nothing else. You know, kind of hopefully this one was kind of completely different to kind of other things, you know, kind of that I have been in my kits, I guess, before. So yeah, thanks very much for watching, and give it a thumbs up if you liked it, and have a nice rest of the day. Thanks a lot. Bye.